This week I'm going to test my fancy new code scanner. Nope, got it down. On all of my vehicles, and I can't really tell you if you should buy one, but I can tell you the function it has on my 1984 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royale, my 1993 Subaru Loyale 4x4, my 2006 BMW Z4 3.0, my partner's Kia Spectre, my 2007 Volvo XC70, and my 2004 Crown Victoria. Let's get right into it. So the code scanner I chose after quite a bit of research is an Autel MK808BT Pro, and I also bought some of the accessories, and where those come in is actually right here, because if you know much about cars from this era, my 1984 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royale is OBD1, so we can't really use this OBD2 scanner on it. The same is true with my Subaru Loyale, though we'll get to that later. However, I am starting with this car because I bought this accessory, which is a battery tester, and I've actually been having trouble with getting this car to start every time. Let me show you here. So since I've owned this car, it always has been difficult to start. It requires a lot of cranking, but it always will start. If I throw a jump pack on it right now, it'd start right up. Obviously, this battery just doesn't have enough juice to crank it over enough for it to actually start. And so it could be a parasitic loss where the battery's dying over time, or the battery could be shot, and this is gonna tell us if it is. Alright, so actually, even though the battery is in the car, we're telling it that we're doing an out-of-car test since this car has no way to communicate via OBD2 with the system. So you just hit start testing, and it's going very quick. So it's actually told me to charge and retest, and I really hope it's not just checking the voltage, because I could have done that with the voltmeter and saved myself the money. However, we are going to charge up the battery and check all my other cars and come back and retest. Do have the battery charger going here, and so we'll come back when that's done. So next up, we're going to move on to something a little more modern, my 2006 BMW Z4. So a little history, if you're new to the channel, I actually bought this car sight unseen, ordered this code scanner to try and fix a bunch of lights, and it actually helped me fix and diagnose the water pump. And so far I've had a really good experience with this, though I'm not sure if any other scanner would have been able to do just the same. A couple weeks back I did a bunch of work on this car, and so we're gonna see if any new codes have popped up since I got finished with that and took it on a road trip last week. I will say that doing a full system scan is very time consuming. All right, actually we are looking really good after that 300-mile road trip on this car. Right after I did all the work, I actually got a few of the codes back, but now we just have two codes. One I'm pretty sure is for the washer nozzle heater, because yes, the washer nozzles in this car have heaters in them. I don't care about that. And the other one is for DSC sensor, longitudinal acceleration. So that's actually a sensor under the passenger seat that instead of being mounted with the intended bracket, that bracket was missing from this car, and so I just VHB taped it down under there. So I'm completely fine with that throwing in there. I even have a spare one in case the sensor is actually bad itself. But eventually I'll need to get a bracket off of another car, and then I can put it in here and have that be perfect. So this car gets a clean pass. The other thing I want to do with the scanner is tell you what write and interaction functions it has. It can actually communicate with the car and tell it to do things. On this car, it actually can't really do much. One of the interesting things is even if it can't interact with the car, for example, I cannot reset the service interval with this thing. It will tell me how to do it, you know, do the key on-off dance or whatever. So that is interesting. I can disable and enable keys. So yeah, there is actually another key with this car, so we might as well just disable that other key that's associated with this car, since I only got one key when I bought it. And it is also smart enough that you cannot disable the key currently in the ignition. In the interest of keeping this video entertaining, I'm gonna move on to the next vehicle. If you want a deeper dive on each of the vehicles here, I might be able to do that. Let me know if you'd like to see that in the comments. I kind of expect that no one really wants that, which is why we're gonna move on now. Next up, my 1985 Honda Shadow 500. I mean, that's all the code scanning you need, right? All right, let's move on to a car that I'm actually pretty curious about myself, my 2004 Crown Victoria. In the last video you saw it, it actually had some transmission issues, so let's see if this little scanner can read those. Well, that was certainly a lot quicker than on the BMW. We've got 3 from the powertrain control module, which might be our transmission. Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. So it says transmission over temperature condition. And considering in that video, my foot was literally sticking to the floor mats. The floorboards are so hot that my foot was just sticking to the rubber mat. I told you they were hot.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Jesus. It would make a little bit of sense that the transmission was overheating a little bit. It is possible it's still low on transmission fluid. I might have to take care of that. Finally, we have one from the light control module. That wasn't me, it just did that. It just did a freaking light module test. That's crazy. I don't know what to do with that information. That's really interesting. All right, that's all the codes taken care of, and now we know why our overdrive light was flashing the other day when we took it on that camping trip. Let's see what else we can do. It looks like we can have the car do a brake bleed for us, which is very nice. You can do stuff with the immobilizer keys, but this car doesn't use those, so you can do stuff with suspension. This car doesn't have any fancy suspension. You can reset the zero weight sensor for the passenger seat. So overall, there do seem to be a lot more functions with this car here, this Ford Crown Victoria, than there are with the BMW, so that makes me a little happy. Because just looking at the BMW, I thought, man, this thing can't really do much, but with this car, it can really do quite a bit. All right, well, that seems like just about all I can do on this car. There's a lot more stuff, just like on the BMW, but that's mostly for service, and so I really have no reason to do it at this time. It is good to know that some cars are better supported than the BMW, though. So I'm actually really excited for this one because the passenger window has not been able to reset and sync, so the auto up still doesn't work to this day, and it's incredibly annoying, so I'm hoping it can tell us what's wrong with that, as well as maybe some other stuff. We'll see. There's actually a few issues with this car, and it'd be really nice as well if it could tell me which of the parking sensors is bad, because that was an issue I had when I was first rebuilding this car. So let's get connected up and see what we find. So oddly enough, in all the other cars, it's managed to read the VIN, but on this one, it just could not read the VIN, so I'm gonna go have to enter that manually. All right, so it took a while, but it finally did load it, and we are gonna start doing a full system scan and see what we find now. All right, so actually we did get one fault from the passenger door module. Let's see what it is, see if it is something to do with our window not going up. It just says an intermittent control module internal fault. And then we can also do an active test, so let's see what that does. Look at that, I just rolled down the window with the code scanner. That's crazy. And now let's roll it back up. That's pretty neat. Oh, here, initializing the window position. Maybe that's what we need to do. So it says to initialize it by moving it to its lower position manually, and then we'll hit OK, and then we'll hit initialize. Now it says operation done. Let's see if the auto window works on that window now. Let's see, moment of truth, moment of truth. Yes! I'm so happy, that's awesome! I couldn't do that with another code scanner, so that is exclusive to a fancy code scanner like this. To be clear, what it would do before, I should have demonstrated, is it would go up and it would probably think it ran into a finger or something and then it'd just roll back down. Now it freaking works, that's awesome. Let's go check the rest of our code. Dude, there's a lot of functionality in here with the Volvo. I'm really happy with this. It seems like the BMW is a bit of an outlier, which I guess BMWs are notoriously hard to service, so it's not terribly surprising. But also I think that BMW is kind of near the end of its run, so maybe that's also why. I'm not sure. Let me know down in the comments if you know more. So it actually says we could do programming and customization with the climate controls. Let's see what we can do there. Oh, I think I can tell it where to distribute the air when it's just in normal modes. And right now I believe it's putting 70% out of the defroster and 30% out of the feet. So technically I could adjust that if I wanted more out of the feet. This is fascinating. There is so much that I can dive into in this. So I've always had a complaint about the heat seaters in this car. I think they're really cold, but I can actually adjust them here, I think. So I'm gonna do that, and maybe the seat heaters will be warmer now, though I don't really have any way to test that. So yeah, I just did a little research, and that's exactly what I just did, is I turned up the seat heaters, which I've always had an issue with in this car. They've always been too cold. So that's awesome. So it does say we have 2 faults from the rear electronics module. I wonder if that could be the parking sensors. Oh my God. It tells me the specific sensor that is wrong. That would have been so helpful when I was trying to rebuild this car. It says it's the 3rd one. I can't believe this thing has so much functionality with this car. I thought I was probably still going to have to set up Volvo's Vita software with a DICE diagnostic tool. However, I think I can get away with just this thing. If you want to learn a little bit more about my experience getting scammed on eBay about that, go check out that video. It's something. It's a little bit older, so it's a little less quality, but it is something. Look at all these things they can check. I can like turn on the stop lamp. Well, it appears I sat out here, messed around with settings enough that the car actually died, so that's not good. I think we're gonna move on from this one knowing that I can do a bunch of stuff and being incredibly happy that we got the passenger side window fixed. Maybe this car is a candidate for a battery test in the future. And I think this might be the official announcement, but if you're sticking around until this point in the video, I'm gonna let you in on a secret. We're actually gonna lift this thing another inch. We lifted it 2 inches previously with 3D printed parts. We're doing it another inch with 3D print. as well as fixing the power steering all in one fell swoop. So make sure you subscribe to see that. So this is sort of why I thought this would be such a cool video. I have so many different cars at my disposal, from, you know, the BMW to the Volvo to the Crown Vic to the Kia. That's at least 4 different makes of cars that I just have here sitting in my driveway that I can test this with. So far, I think I'm most impressed with the Volvo, second most impressed with the Crown Vic, and of course the BMW. Well, we know how I feel about that. Fortunately, we were able to read the VIN of this car automatically. Let's see if there's any codes sitting around. Oh, actually, this car does have one issue that we might be able to fix. The TPMS system doesn't really work all the time, so maybe some errors related to that'll pop up. Damn, does this car not have anti-lock brakes? It's from 2007. Weren't they mandated by then? When were anti-lock brakes mandated in the US? Anti-lock brakes weren't mandated until 2013, so I guess this car doesn't have them. I thought they were mandated in like the late 90s or something. So we did find a bunch of faults with the TPMS system, as well as a couple with the airbag. Let's check out the airbag first. So it does say the occupant classification system, there's a defect in the mat. I believe in this car, if you sit in a certain way, the airbag light will come on. So it could be something to do with that. So it actually won't let me erase the codes because one of them is currently active. Let's back out and see if we can recalibrate the weight. And if we can't do that, then it's probably an actual issue and maybe we should look into fixing it, but also maybe not. It might help with the sale value because we are kind of planning to sell this car at some point in the near future. All right, well, with that unresolved, but at least we know about it. Now let's go check out the TPMS errors. So sensor 1 battery voltage low, and all of them have a channel failure. So I don't know what happened to them. They just apparently aren't detected. Well, that's interesting. At least we know that's the problem. I wonder if I can remap them in this thing, actually. Yeah, see, here's all the existing sensors with all of their IDs, and so I could remap these. Oh, and interesting, if your TPMS module fails, you can actually write the VIN of the car into the module itself. So if you want to replace it or something, that's really good to have. Well, that was really interesting. There's not a whole lot you can do on this car compared to the Volvo, but it is exactly the same year as the Volvo, and it's a Korean Econo box back when Korea was kind of still getting started with cars, so I'm not surprised there's a lot, but it is neat to see that you can do the TPMS stuff with it. So it is getting rather dark out. There's my Loyale. It does have the engine light on, but it is OBD1, so we will be trying to check that in this video, but we will not be using this scanner. For now, let's go back and check on the Oldsmobile and do another battery test. All right, looks like it is fully charged. Oh, that's really interesting. It actually is telling me to replace the battery. It says the voltage is 12.77 and it only measured 477 cold cranking amps. So I'll have to go replace this battery and I'll get back to you and tell you what this thing says once it's been replaced. That is really interesting. This will save me a lot of trips to the auto parts store saying, hey, is this battery bad? Instead, I can just do it at home. But first, I do need to go replace the battery and see if it tells me that it's good, which I'm sure it will. Let's go do the in-vehicle test on the Volvo. So I'm really curious how the in-vehicle test will work because it's also going to be communicating with the vehicle's OBD2 sensor. And especially considering that the Volvo's battery is currently dead, like how is it going to handle that? Because I'm obviously gonna have to jump the car with a jump pack. So in this car, because this is a performance machine, the battery is actually in the back. Oh, that's interesting. This scanner will even tell me where the battery location is. Turn off electrical appliances, ignition off, close all vehicle doors. Yeah, it says I have a bad cell that I should replace the battery. I'm gonna come back out here after letting this battery charge and test it again and see what it tells me. All right, it's a new day. Let's run the test again and see if this thing still says it needs a new battery. It is currently fully charged. Okay, so now it does say it's a good battery. So it turns out that if the battery is dead, the test just does not work. But I am glad that I don't have to replace the battery in this car. Interesting. This thing actually does, as part of this software, also test the starter and the generator. So we're just gonna try that, because why not? So I just tested the starter and it does say that cranking is normal. Now it's gonna test the generator. All right, so yeah, it says our whole system, the starter, the generator, and the battery is all good. So we are clear on this car. Yeah, I could have unhooked the trailer, but hey, the practice is good for me. Let's go grab the battery for the Oldsmobile and then see if it starts any better. Looks like that battery's from 2018 according to the label, so, you know, not too bad. It lasted about 7 years. Let's go grab a new one and get it put back in here, so maybe this thing will start without a jumper pack. It would actually start if I jumped it and then drove it somewhere and then wanted to start it again. It would then start, but apparently the battery's getting a little weak. You might have noticed in the background here, it's a little bit messier than I like to keep it in here. However, that's because I also have been filming the video where I learned how to weld. And if you haven't seen that, go check it out. It was either out last week or the week after this, so maybe subscribe if you don't see it on my channel. So I was actually gonna go for the platinum or whatever, because I plan to have this car for a very long time. However, they didn't have platinum in this style. I'm guessing this is not really a style of battery that's used much anymore. So I just went for the cheapest kind, and we will just have to see how long it lasts. Jesus, maybe a little less now. And just for completeness, we will test it one more time, though I, of course, am completely expecting it to tell me the battery is brand new, because it is brand new. And indeed, as you can see, it's telling me the battery is brand new. Let's see if this car will start under its own power now. Yep, started right up. That's actually easier than it usually goes, so that is really good. And last but not least, we're gonna go read the codes of the Subaru Loyale, which is OBD1, which I believe means I need to short 2 connectors together or something to make it flash a light in a certain pattern. And then I'll have to look up that pattern online and see if I can figure out what's wrong with it. I basically completely expect it to be an emissions code, but we'll see what it is. So there's a green connector under here that I've kind of always wondered what it's for, and according to the internet, you plug that together and it'll tell you the codes. You can thank my neighbor for that. So I believe it's not actually going to flash the engine light. I think it might flash a light under the dash, but I don't really see anything for it to flash under there. Let's just turn it on and see what happens. Well, the engine light is gone. Was that connector unplugged what was causing my engine light, or what's going on? The engine code did not come back. I wonder if that connector just got unplugged and that's why my engine light was on. Apparently the diagnostic connectors are actually on this side of the firewall. I read they were on the firewall, but they're on the inside and they're just under here. So I'm still gonna try and plug them in and see if it'll flash at all, because I'm curious. So I couldn't find the connectors under the dash, but I'm gonna go away and I'm just gonna say I think we fixed our check engine codes, so that's good. I am curious if we can figure out where those green wires that I plugged in go to, because they're just up on top there. Yeah, there's no way to tell. It's just one wire. There's also another wire unplugged here. Might as well plug that back in and see what happens. I guess we'll have to see in the long term if the engine light comes back, but it kind of seems like we just fixed it. Maybe it'll result in other issues or something. That's very weird that there would just be 2 connectors under the hood that are unplugged for absolutely no reason, but I don't know, old car stuff. I also got, that I didn't show in this video, a scope camera. I haven't used this yet, but I'm sure it'll come in handy at one point, and you could probably get one of similar quality for cheaper, but I just thought it would be nice to have an all-in-one tool plus the big screen. But anyways, between all of that stuff, I think I spent about $800 or more on this, the battery tester, and the scope camera. So I think I'm really glad to have this in my toolbox and that it'll be completely worth it over time. But I hope I was able to help you. If I did, then leave a like down below. If you have any questions about what this can do on any of my cars, like specifically, then leave a comment down below. Or if you want to share suggestions or how it works on other cars, then do that as well. And subscribe if you want to see me learn how to weld in a future video, because I think that's going to come out after this. So I guess that's all I got. Thanks so much for watching. This was a really fun one to put together, and I'm really glad that we actually got things fixed on 3 different cars. We got the power window fixed on the Volvo, we got the check engine light fixed on the Subaru, and we got the new battery for the Olds. It was a really productive code scanning session, I guess. Well, now that you stuck around to the end and we're all cleaned up, these are all of the 3D printed parts that we're going to use to lift the XC70 a second time. It's a lot more parts for half as much of a lift, but I am really excited. And these are some stuff that should make some of the knocking go away. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see that. I don't know when it's going to be ready. I need to get it done before September though, because we're planning on taking the Volvo on a trip in September. All right, all tidy in here. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.